Alrighty, hey babes, welcome back for episode 3 of the Babe That's Bonkers podcast. I'm your host, Kaylee Faria, and as always, I am super duper excited to be here, super excited to have you here. Today's episode will be about how we as babes need to be meeting our basic needs. It's very, very important. Also quite challenging at times, just depending on life circumstances. But I'm very excited to be sharing just kind of how I categorize that in my mind to make it seem and feel more manageable, if that makes sense. So essentially today I'm going to be talking about why it's important to be meeting our basic needs and kind of what they are chunked up in a physical needs category and a mental, emotional, spiritual needs category, even though both definitely affect one another, and it's a very symbiotic relationship, you could say. Before we jump into the meat and potatoes, though, I'm going to sneak in a little bit of a life update. Recently, I have been really working on having an intentional mindset, especially with how I view myself, just kind of working on building up confidence in who I am and who I want to be and the things that I'm doing and saying and whatnot. Essentially, in the realm of the podcast, I'm very much battling imposter syndrome. Like, who am I to just be starting a podcast and sharing my thoughts with the world or whatever? And editing is very cringy, just listening to myself over and over again, watching myself on video and everything like that. But I think it's been a really great opportunity to practice that confidence in myself. I've just been reminding myself, or trying to, that I can literally do whatever I want with my life. Like, it's my life, and if this is what I think is fun and cool, then this is what I should be doing. And if people think that's silly, then it's okay, because I'm a little bit silly. And I'm also pretty determined to just have a life that is unique to me and my personality, that's not boring. Like, I don't want to be normal, so I just need to be embracing, who I am and all of these projects that I'm working on, because I think that they're really fun and really exciting, and I like them. And it's okay if the entire world isn't my biggest fan. But I'm also confident that there are people out there in the world who will just click with me and resonate with me, because they're also just some carefree, lighthearted hippies that want to have a happy, wholesome life. Yeah, and also in terms of the editing things just being super cringy to play back, like, it is a really weird experience to just be recording yourself all the time. But I'm accepting that I am human, I am imperfect. There are going to be moments whenever I say filler words, or I say words wrong, or I say weird sentences that don't make sense, but I am simply going to have faith that you are going to be hearing what I mean, not just what I say, See, that was a test. If it worked, it worked. If not, I don't know. Good luck. For a less dramatic life update, I also tried out a new recipe, kind of. I mean, not really a recipe. When it comes to cooking in the kitchen, I am really working on learning different techniques that I can just apply to cook things, rather than always needing a recipe. Then I can kind of play around with my own flavor profiles and whatnot. But now that it's fall, I have been cooking those cozy comfort food meals, and I've been wanting to switch it up a little bit. I've done a few chuck roasts in my day, and they've all been wonderful. But this time, I did a pork shoulder roast, and it was so good. Normally, I do a roast with like carrots, potatoes, celery, onion. I think that's usually it. But I wanted to switch it up a little bit and make it a little bit more fall themed, I guess you could say. And I did sweet potatoes instead, stuck with the carrots, and added some green beans, and it looked very fall-like. It tasted amazing. It was honestly so much more tender. I think that the pork shoulder is a much more marbled cut of meat than chuck sometimes. I guess it really just depends on, each piece or whatever. But yeah, I just wanted to share that, and it was very, very delicious. If you would like to know my version of the recipe, feel free to DM me or something like that. Happy to share. I think that's all I have as far as life updates go. Something else pops in my head. I have the capability to share, but we're going to move on for now because this is just something that I'm really, really passionate about. This is kind of the first thing I've been wanting to talk about on the podcast because it is something that I kind of, these are thoughts that I look at as like laying down the foundation of my life and my lifestyle. And whenever I'm doing all of these things, life seems to be really, really good. And whenever I'm not doing these things, I happen to find myself struggling in different types of ways. So that has been a life lesson in itself. And I'm a firm believer that life will continue to teach you the lessons that you need to learn until you learn them. And if you forget them, life will remind you, which I think is really wonderful and really, really magical. I think it's kind of a way that the universe shows you that it's got a plan for you or something like that, or that it is at least trying to encourage you to grow in some sort of way. At least that's how I like to look at things. Maybe I'm just personifying the universe or something like that. But does it really matter? No, it doesn't. But yeah, why it's important to be taking care of our basic needs, meeting all of our basic needs, is because it lays out a foundation, I think, to just tackle all the rest of life's problems. Everything else that life is planning on throwing your way anyway, it is so much easier to let the little things kind of roll off you. All those non-important things that, somehow seem to matter on a day where you didn't get a good night's rest, but wouldn't really matter if you were in a pleasant, good mood and all of your needs were met, kind of thing. I hope that makes sense. I think it makes sense. I understand anyways. Yeah, that's just the goal, is to have all of our needs met, so that's just something that we do not have to worry about, and then we can put all of our focus onto everything that's actually like really exciting about life and really wonderful, or that just shit that just needs to be taken care of type thing. But yeah, we're just going to go ahead and jump on into what all of these different needs are and, my little take on them. So we're going to go ahead and start off with sleep. I think that this is probably the most important one. Maybe it's just my favorite one, but I think that sleep is like the true foundational layer of our physical health. I think that it's so important for us to go through all of our different stages of sleep. We're doing different things. Our body is still at work whenever we're sleeping. That rest is just really, really important, so we can heal and do all of these different things that are important. And I think that prioritizing sleep is simply a great first step to start setting yourself up for success for the next day type of thing. I don't know, I feel a huge difference in my mood on nights where I get a really nice restful chunk of sleep versus nights where I'm like tossing, turning, waking up a lot, or just didn't get like the quantity that my body actually needs to complete all of the secret processes that it does whenever I am unconscious and in the dream world or whatever. But I think that a few things that help me get a really, really great night's sleep is, one, making sure I have an active day. I think that having a decently active day, make sure that I'm tired enough to fall asleep, and that kind of helps combat insomnia a little bit. Whenever insomnia is hitting a little bit harder, I think that a little gummy is a really great solution. One of these days, I will do a deep dive into like holistic health and herbal medicines and all of my thoughts on that. But for now, just a little something. I really love a gummy that has like a 1:1:1 ratio of THC, CBD, and CBN. That's like my favorite concoction whenever it comes to wanting to get a restful night's sleep. Does that sentence make sense? That's the ratio that works well for me and my body whenever I'm aiming to get like a restful night's worth of sleep. And it has been pretty game changing to just have an extra tool like that into my tool belt. I prefer it compared to like melatonin, because melatonin is technically a hormone that our bodies release naturally within like our circadian rhythm, which has a lot to do with like sunshine, and we'll get into that later, and all that jazz. And melatonin definitely will work for me if I need help sleeping, but I would just prefer to use some sort of herb to help me rather than, you know, giving myself extra hormones. I feel like that just throws off my body's natural like process. You know what I mean? And I don't want to make myself reliant on anything like that. Just kind of personal preferences. Obviously, do your own research and whatever works for you. But that's my take and what works for me. I also think that trying to stay consistent with like bedtime, wake up time really helps with that. That kind of is just like your circadian rhythm staying in sync, because your daytime and your nighttime are consistent. I think that our bodies naturally crave routine, or at least crave like mimicking like what the day is doing. Like we're supposed to be up with the sun, we're supposed to be sleeping at nighttime, and those kinds of things. But staying consistent is pretty helpful, because then you're kind of not getting overtired or anything like that. You know, it happens with adults too, not just babies. And my last little thing pertaining to sleep is just having like a tech-free bedtime routine. This is something I struggle with a lot. My partner and I love to watch movies and fall asleep watching TV or whatever, even if it's just on our like little laptop and whatnot. You know, sometimes you're just really cozy and the night escapes you and you snooze or whatever, and that's fine. But I think this is more so for whenever I'm like struggling to get a good night's sleep, not just struggling to fall asleep. Having like a tech-free evening routine where instead of like being on my phone, I'm like playing Sudoku. That's my favorite little puzzle game. I'm not very good at reading because I don't really remember if I fall asleep, and I don't get like a good chunk done. But that's kind of what I like to do, is play Sudoku, because it also makes my brain a little bit tired and sleepy, you know? And it's the kind of puzzle where I can not finish and come back to, or I can do a couple or whatever. You know, we all have our own things, but I really tried the reading thing, like reading before bed, and it has just not stuck with me. I don't know. As a kid, I used to love reading and read quite often until I got into like middle school, high school, and they started like assigning us a bunch of different books that just I didn't always vibe with, or I was just super duper busy. So I would like spark note some of the book assignments, or I just wouldn't have time to like do my own like personal free reading because I was so busy with assignments like that and whatnot. I don't know. That's just kind of whenever my love for reading kind of like fell off a little bit. Or I guess not love for it. I've always loved reading. I do really love a good story. Trust me. Just kind of reading as a habit, I guess you could say, fell off at that time. Which is kind of unfortunate looking back. I'm constantly buying books though from thrift stores and whatnot in hopes that I will reintroduce reading as a consistent habit in my life. And I'm sure that if I simply continue and stay determined on this path, on this course of re-becoming a reader, reigniting the book lover within, it's just bound to happen one of these days. I think we're getting close though. I think I just need to find like the right types of books. I have listened to some audiobooks recently, so that's also kind of a nice like little bridge, I think. I probably remember better when I'm reading physically, but you know, I'm trying to learn, and I'm also very off topic at this point. Sleep is um, sleep is one of our most important basic needs. Those are the thoughts I have about that, and now I'm going to move on because there's a lot to chat about today, and no need to waste our time rambling too much, you know? Who am I saying? This whole thing is a rant. But a fun one, I think. The next one is hydration. Like, these topics are obviously not revolutionary. It's not rocket science or like some secret that these are the things that we require as human beings. But it is important to remember that we actually need them and that this is the foundation that we as life forms need to like survive. I think that, just the jobs that I've had since like college and whatever have mostly pertained to taking care of either babies and toddlers or plants. And we're all the same. We all have a set of basic needs that need to be met in order to thrive. And it's really easy for certain needs to just get neglected or for certain needs to just be left out. You know what I mean? And it's a magical thing if we can find the balance. And that is the goal that I'm working towards. And I'm sharing those thoughts with you. So we're going to chit chat about hydration now. The main thing that has helped me stay hydrated over the years is having an emotional support water bottle. Emotional support water bottle. I don't know. Whatever you want to call it. Having like a go-to water bottle that is always filled with water, preferably with ice. But if you're like me and you don't have an ice maker and you have to make it all yourself in trays, I only fill this thing up with ice like once a day, and the rest is just kind of regular water. Filtered, but room temperature is what it is. I don't need to explain all the ins and outs of how I acquire my water to you. Just that having a water bottle that is just a part of your like daily person, you're never without it, ensures that you are always capable of staying hydrated. You have no excuse to let yourself become dehydrated. And I also think that learning the signs of dehydration is really, really helpful because it's not always just kind of like getting a headache and not feeling well. It's like having low energy, sometimes being clumsy or misspeaking quite a bit. These are things that I learned doing citizen science days out here in Tucson. One of my friends works for the Park Service, and we spent some time at Saguaro National Park. We're essentially like in the middle of it in Tucson, which is really, really cool. Saguaros are these like super giant cactus, like super giant cacti. And anywho, for those citizen science days, we would always go over different like safety precautions, which I think was super duper cool. Maybe it's just like the lifeguard in me, but safety rules, I don't know. I just think that they're super duper important, and ignoring them is dumb. Like, you're not cool if you think that you just are gonna be the one person who doesn't need that kind of information. You know what I mean? Like, thinking back to seeing people who weren't carrying water bottles with them hiking in the Grand Canyon, I don't know if they're alive. Like, I think that's just like a crazy thing to do. That's just me, as I was carrying a Camelback and a water bottle and other things just for like a little day hike type thing. But once again, I have gotten off topic, but learning the signs of what it's like to be dehydrated can help you like recognize whenever you're at the beginning of that happening, so you can start to counteract and start chugging some water because it's good for you. We're like mostly water. We need to replenish, otherwise we're just gonna like shrivel up like that worm from that chocolate episode of SpongeBob. You know what I'm talking about? Yeah, you do. The last point I have to make regarding hydration is just making conscientious choices that aren't like counteracting your ability to stay hydrated too much. Personally, for me and my lifestyle, I don't consume a lot of alcohol or sodas maybe every once in a while on like a special occasion, I'll enjoy a little something something. But for the most part, for like fun drinks or like a little treat for a drink, I usually gear towards juice or something like that. Or I've been getting really into Olipop's also, the like probiotic soda. Um, Still soda, but at least it's doing a little something something for you. But I just try to not have soda be a part of my regular like daily, weekly routine. If I'm going out to a restaurant, sure, that's like a fun time to like get some soda. I definitely don't have any rules against it, or any like quotas or something. Like I can only have one per week or whatever. Like I go with the flow of things, but I don't like buy soda to like keep in the house for the most part. And that's because I find that not only does it give me like a lot more sugar than I actually need, and caffeine at points of the day where I don't actually need caffeine. Like I need my dose in the morning, my cup of coffee, my chai, my something something in the morning. But if I have it like in the afternoon when I would normally want like a sweet drink like that, I don't need more caffeine. That's gonna like goof up my sleep. I don't know. These are the things I think about whenever I'm making choices. And I simply remember making different choices and how they affect me. Whenever I choose soda later in the day, have a hard time sleeping, don't really feel that great. If I choose juice or something else to have with dinner, I feel fine and I got a little sweet treat. And sure, don't get me wrong, like juices have sugar in them, but it's about just making choices that are a little bit better, and more than anything, just being intentional with your choices and just finding the balance that works for you. And the goal is just to stay hydrated. So I'm going to drink some more water immediately. I actually have an outfit. I did not do this on purpose, but I have an outfit that like matches my water bottle. It's like this like light purple, and I have this like light purple workout set. Not this one. This one is like very crazy and colorful and kind of more summery than fall, but it's a jacket, so that's fall enough, right? Anywho, I have this like light purple leggings set, and I have like a couple pink shirts, and whenever I like pair them together, I look exactly like my water bottle. I think that tells you everything you need to know about how into fashion I am. I care, but I don't. You know what I mean? So anywho, we are going to move on. So obviously we've got hydration and nutrition. We need food and water to survive, just like plants and babies. Adults need these things every day. And when it comes to like meeting my nutritional needs, I guess you could say, it has been a journey figuring out what actually works for me, what is a sustainable lifestyle that promotes having a healthy body that I feel good existing in. Probably a journey I will tell everyone about in its own episode, because there's a lot there. But my key goals when it comes to meeting my nutritional needs these days are being non-restrictive. Like I was talking about with the soda, I don't let myself not have anything. Like, one of the joys of being a human is getting to experience things, and that includes things that you eat and drink. And it really is just everything in moderation at the end of the day. I'm a firm believer that cliches are a cliche for a reason. Like, it might just be something you want to ignore because you've heard it so many times or whatever. But you've heard it so many times for a reason. It'll click when it's meant to click for you. But yeah, having a non-restricted diet is super important to me. I don't want to overthink anything, and I don't want to limit my life experience, but I also want to make good choices that make me feel good. So I try to gear a lot of my diet towards including mostly whole foods, lots of produce, meals that I can essentially cook myself. I don't try to not eat fast food or go out to eat or anything like that, but focusing on making meals for myself the majority of the time not only helps my budget, but it also helps just like how I feel. You know, fast food's all right every now and again. Great for a road trip, of course, but to like rely on for your diet, you know, might not just, it's probably not gonna make your body feel 100% amazing. You know what I mean? But like, I'm not gonna sit here and be a hypocrite and tell you that I don't get fast food, but when I do, I just try to be thoughtful about it, be intentional, do. And I try to make choices that are like In-N-Out or Chick-fil-A or Cane's or something like that. You know, Cane's might be a little greasy, but chicken is a very protein-heavy dinner. You know, not the worst thing for you. In-N-Out has very like fresh food. It doesn't make my body feel good. Like, essentially that's what I'm listening to, you know. Go out and eat your fast food and think about how it makes you feel, and then the next day make a decision on what you want to eat and try out different things. But just know that what you eat definitely has a huge effect on how you feel and the kind of life you're capable of having. So be intentional. The rule I have for myself kind of is like the make it yourself rule when it comes to sweets. I definitely have a sweet tooth. I love dessert. I eat dessert frequently, but I'm still a very healthy young adult, you know? And I think that making it yourself just kind of ensures that you are using these like whole ingredients and there aren't these extra preservatives that have names that are very hard to pronounce in them. And, you know, I think it's important for things to have an expiration date. Life and death, you know, it's a cycle for all of us living things. And I think that trying to impede it, you know, trying to impede it with preservatives is trying to use like freaking immortality magic. It's like messing with the balance of the universe, and it's not necessary. Like, we just need to let things be. And if I have cookies that end up going bad after a little bit, you know, that's probably a good thing. They're probably cookies that aren't going to make my body feel super duper gross as long as I'm not eating too many of them at once. But if I have cookies that just like sit in my pantry forever and ever and ever and ever, like, what's going on there? What is that? What's doing that? That's not normal. That's not natural. So yeah, I avoid that and I try to make things myself, but I'm also human. I eat freaking Oreos. Like, it's important to be intentional about these things, I think, but it's also important to not let it all get too deep. Like, none of these things should feel all-consuming in any way, shape, or form, I think. But sometimes life gets that way. You get in the overthinking rabbit hole tunnels and it's hard to escape the rumination rotation. So for the next one of our physical needs that we are trying to meet on a regular basis, I'm sure you could guess it, is movement and exercise. I really like referring to it as movement rather than exercise because exercise feels very like workout focused, and we'll get into that in like a second, a moment, a minute. But first and foremost, like, our bodies are simply meant to move. You know, they're not supposed to be like stagnant all the time. If we were, we would be plants. You know what I mean? But we're not. I think it's just important to make sure that we are moving throughout the day as much as we can and in different ways. You know, the different ways that we move affect our body differently and, you know, help meet different needs. I don't know what that sentence was, but I think that referring to it and simply the way you refer to things in general has a huge impact on the way your like brain processes that information. So I think that like prioritizing movement in my life feels like going on a bunch of walks, making sure I get up and stretch whenever I'm spending a long time sitting at the desk in the computer or in the computer on the computer or sitting on the couch or laying in bed or whatever it may be. You know, it's important for me to go outside hang out with my dog, play some fetch for a little bit, maybe go for a walk. Did I already say that? Maybe. I don't know. Maybe I'm making plans to like go hiking at some point this month, or I want to have a picnic outside. And it really doesn't matter, but that's kind of like what movement looks like to me, just making sure that I'm not staying stuck in the same place. And it can be as like simple or as complex as you need it to be, and that is something that you can kind of, take on moment by moment, rather than requiring yourself to like meet this quota of workouts per day, per week, or whatever. If that works for you and if that's the way that you best practice discipline, that's cool, great, wonderful. But for me, whenever I start to like set those types of expectations for myself, like I have to work out for an hour every single day, otherwise I'm not going to be healthy and fit and whatever. Like, I don't know, if I miss one, I start to feel like a failure of some sorts, which is not the case. That just means that I'm an imperfect human, and that is okay. If I only worked out for 4 days out of the week instead of my goal of 5 or 6 or whatever that may be, I don't need to beat myself up about it. I'm still probably a relatively very healthy person for the most part. You know what I mean? And I should be proud of myself for putting in the effort I did, because what your best looks like is different every day. It's different every week, every month. It's really dependent on, how you've set yourself up for success, the season of life that you're in, the kind of mental headspace that your mind is existing in. So I think it's just important to like have, flexible guidelines that allow, space for you to just be a human. But that also doesn't mean to just give yourself excuses and outs and, reasons to be lazy or to not do the things that you need to do to be a happy, healthy human with a fulfilled life. You know what I mean? But yeah, just the way you frame things really, really makes a difference, I think. So I like to refer to that part of my basic needs as movement rather than exercise, though I do like to exercise. I really love to swim. I really love to do yoga. Yoga was pretty life-changing for me, and I'll get into that another day. And I definitely want more workout sessions implemented into my life, but that's not a basic need. A basic need of mine is to just be moving, be active. Onyx gets it. He's moving down there. And for me, the most important piece of the puzzle is to have goals that are focused on how I feel existing within my body, and if I'm capable of achieving the lifestyle that I want to have. Like for me, I really love being outdoors. I really love hiking. I want to be able to do some like really crazy cool hikes someday. Like I want to hike freaking Machu Picchu or something. And that requires me to be able to do a certain amount of like things to push my body a certain amount, you know what I mean? And so I just want to make sure that I'm able to do those things, and having my like movement exercise focus be fully on like how I feel and what I'm capable of versus the way that I look has been life-changing, because guess what? Your body is going to look different all the time. Like you are constantly, consistently changing. Like you looked different 5 years ago, you look different whenever you were a child, you're gonna look different in a decade and a decade after that. Like our human bodies change over time based on the lives that we live, and that is really scary and really intimidating and also really, really beautiful. So, don't put too much weight in it. I have definitely put way too much weight and too much of my worth in the way that I look, and it's just not worth the mental anguish. I'll say that. Just know that our bodies change, and that's cool. And It's just important that we're able to do the things that we want to do that make our lives great. You know what I mean? These last couple ones kind of pertain to both physical health as well as our mental health. I think both are just equally affected, and these are just things that are super duper important to take care of and very, very easy to overlook and forget about. Sunshine is one of the needs that I think is surprisingly so important to just feel good. You know what I mean? As animals, we are animals as humans, and we're not the nocturnal kind of animals. We are meant to be awake and moving out and about during the daytime, where we receive sunshine, which gives us vitamin D. It helps regulate our circadian rhythm by getting sunshine, which then helps with our sleep. Like, a lot of these things are very, very intertwined and interconnected. Like, the meeting of our basic needs, like, each category has a symbiotic relationship with the next category. You know what I mean? And I feel like every physical need has its like mental health counterpart, or they're just needs like this one, getting some sunshine, that pertain to both, In addition to improving our circadian rhythm, it also improves our skin health. It improves the health of our immune system. Studies show that sunshine can help boost serotonin, which can help combat depression. Like, if I really think about it, and I think about what I'm doing when I feel really depressed, it's laying in bed all day, wallowing, doing nothing, not taking care of myself, yada, yada, yada. It's not being outside in the sun, getting fresh air, Which leads us into the next one, which is fresh air. That is like another really important piece of the puzzle, and that's usually a 2-for-1. Unless it's like dark, I guess you could say, or like really cloudy, usually you can get sunlight and fresh air together. A 2-for-1. Kill 2 birds with 1 stone. It's cool. Getting into it. Right now I think it's a bonus that it's fall, because in the fresh air is like the nice crisp fall air. It's fancy, it's seasonal, limited edition. But breathing in fresh air can actually help improve the health of our lungs. That's something that is very important to me, especially with my hippy-dippy habits. I always want to do whatever I can to be setting myself up for success. You know what I mean? Especially health-wise. Like, my health is something that I want to take very, very seriously. I really want to be one of those people that's like, my body is a temple, and you cannot possibly convince me not to do these things. Anywho, being outside in the fresh air helps with our lung health. It also improves our energy and our concentration, apparently. Just stuff I've read on the internet, and frankly, I believe it. But it's apparently also supposed to help reduce stress, which I think is real. The sunshine and the fresh air, reducing the stress and the depression. I actually think that the cure to depression is getting rid of stress. Maybe that's a hot take. I'll get into that another day. We'll have some episodes in the future, kind of more based on my experiences with physical health and my experiences with mental health, or something like that. But later on, we need to go on a few more dates before we get into the nitty-gritty details of those types of things, But that's all I have regarding meeting our physical needs. Now we're going to roll right on over into the mental, emotional, spiritual side of things, just all the things that are going on in our mind, and a few things that I think we need to be doing often to make sure that everything is functioning properly. Our foundation is solid. I honestly think it's extra important to be meeting the needs of our mind, because that's what's really going to help us, just battle whatever life has to throw off at us. If I can just be faced with something that kind of annoys me and just be actually, that just doesn't matter, and I don't need to stress about it. I'm going to focus on doing this thing because that's what's going to make my day feel fulfilled, or going to make someone in my life feel loved, or make myself feel loved, or whatever. You know what I mean? Letting the hard things just roll off you That is the goal, the Zen goal that we're going for these days. But as far as meeting our mental needs, the first one I have, which is kind of the same as sleep as a foundation, is rest. I think it is really, really important to give our minds a chance to rest. Like our brains are doing so many things at once. They're like hosting our consciousness, they're controlling our bodies, and our thoughts are just worrying about a million different things all the time. We are constantly working on doing things that have to do with like our career, our health, our families, our relationships, our homes or cars or whatever else, and it's a lot. Life is a lot. The society we live in is a lot. So I think that rest is really important. Like, we just need to give our brains a break. How I personally try to do that is I never schedule anything on Sundays. Sundays are the days that just get to be whatever they need to be. If I feel like I haven't gone on a date with my partner in a while, that's the day that we have to connect. If the house is a mess, that's a day that we have to just work on a bunch of different chores. If life has been super duper overwhelming, that's a day that we can just have a lazy day, or we can go out and have a little walk in nature to recharge or something like that. Leaving Sundays as my day, which sometimes you don't have to be flexible. Different events happen, life happens, there's no need for rigidity by any means, but setting aside a day. Like, I don't make plans with friends for the most part. I don't make plans for work. If I can help it, I try not to work on all of my like personal projects unless it's something that is like really fun, maybe a bit more spontaneous on those days. I just plan everything else on other days, chores included. And it's just like Sunday just gets to be whatever kind of day it needs to be. And that's kind of what I feel like I need as a rest day. I just need a day that can be mobile. And for the most part, I don't have to think about like what I have to do that day, because I don't have to do anything. It's just whatever I want to do, whatever I feel like I need to do to feel good, But yeah, just make sure you're taking breaks, you're resting your mind. If it's not a day that you can block out, make sure that you're having like an evening a week of just like some you time, some self-care time, some time to just unwind and not think about anything, and preferably let it be screen free. Like, I don't know, watching movies can be Actually, I take it back. It doesn't have to be screen free. Like, watch a movie, give your brain a break. Like, let you just have some time where you don't have to like follow all the rules that you set for yourself. Maybe I'm the only one who sets like a bunch of rules for themselves and how I live life. I blame growing up Catholic and the 10 Commandments and all that stuff. But I'm working on creating my own personal 10 Commandments, and maybe that's a freaking hot take. I haven't decided if I want to cuss on this podcast or not. I think I maybe have. I don't know. Actually, I don't want to think about it. I'm just going to say whatever I freaking feel like saying, and sometimes freaking's enough. Anywho, I'm getting really sidetracked, so we're just going to go ahead and jump on to the next mental need that I think needs to be met on a regular basis, and that is learning. Since I have been out of school, I have learned a lot. Now, I have learned that I have to be intentional with my learning now that I no longer have school as just like my main life focus to just consume knowledge and absorb it and practice it and whatever else. Like, I don't know, they don't really tell you that after school you start like doing jobs and then your day becomes like the same thing over and over and over and over again to some sort of degree. And like, there is some learning. There's always opportunities to learn in life from every day if you're really looking for it. But since attending college, I feel like I've gotten dumber. I think that my vocabulary has gone really downhill because I don't read a lot of different like academic pieces anymore. I just have conversations with regular humans. And guess what? The vocabulary of the average Arizonan American is nothing crazy. And I don't know. I've discovered that if I want to learn something, I have to be really intentional about it. I have to be like taking a class or buying a book or watching a video myself. There has to be that kind of like self-initiating type of action happening when it comes to learning. And that's something I didn't realize that I have to do. Like, just like going to school for like your entire freaking life as a child, you never think that you're gonna have to like schedule time to learn or go out of your way to make sure that you're learning and that your brain's not turning to mush. But I don't know, it's something that's also just really important to me personally, because I think it's one of the most amazing parts of being a human on this planet, living life. Like, there's so much to learn, like so much to learn, so much knowledge out there, so much that it's actually impossible for us to absorb it all. But there's enough to where we could spend our whole lives absorbing a different thing every day. Like, that's pretty freaking cool. So that's just a mental need I didn't realize I would have to meet myself as an adult for the most part, or just provide myself with opportunities to be met. You know what I mean? But kind of cool. A new challenge now that I'm an adult and not a student. Whatever. But it also kind of ties into the next chunk of needs that I have, which are stimulation and engagement. Learning is definitely a type of intellectual stimulation, but I kind of like to think of the stimulation I need, or at least the way I need that need met, is by either engaging in some sort of like conversation with someone that just like really gets you thinking, like that's deeper than just like the small talk of, hey, how's your day? What have you been up to? Blah, blah, blah. What's been on your mind? Like the type of conversation that genuinely gets you thinking about something new, something you maybe have never thought of before, haven't thought of in a really long time, or something like that. Some sort of problem solving perhaps happening there. I also think that where I feel like I am like properly mentally stimulated and engaged with what I'm doing is whenever I'm doing any sort of creative activity where I am creating something. So whether that's like an art piece or a meal or something like that, I need to be stimulated where I have like some sort of like visual hands-on project happening. Maybe it's even just like any hobby where I'm like maybe gardening, where I'm like working with the plants or whatever. I guess I need like not only like mental stimulation, but I need to like do it. Wow. See, everything is just so connected, and I'm like figuring these things out as I'm sharing them with you. Like, I think I have them figured out when I'm like doing my brainstorming, compiling my notes and whatever. And here I am talking things out with you, learning more. But yeah, I think that just like how people learn, visually, auditorily, kinesthetically, hands-on, whatever, I think that you need that same sort of like stimulation in your mind, in your life. I don't know. Do you get what I'm trying to say? Like, just it being like not only like an intellectual problem conversation to be figuring out, but having something to do like right in front of you that's hands-on. Maybe we need like a little bit of variety, or maybe we're all different. I personally crave a lot of variety in my life in every way, shape, or form. It's something I'll never let go of because I think that life is simply so diverse in every single category. Why not appreciate every little bit of it the best you can, rather than giving all of your appreciation to the same things, but to each your own. I'm also the kind of person that would like to be like a jack of all trades rather than a master of one, perhaps. There's nothing wrong with either. They're just different paths in life. But once again, I'm getting off track. The rambles are rambling, and we're going to ramble on over to the next little chunk, which is connection. I think that connecting with people, other humans, ourselves, maybe even animals, our pets. One of mine's napping down there. You can't really see him, but he's there. Just sense that there is an animal napping in the room with you. Maybe that's creepy, spooky. I don't know. We're funny over here. But I think that connection is one of our like emotional, spiritual, mental needs. I just said all three of them again in a different order, but I think that's the order of importance. That's the order of the vibes the word gives me when we're talking about like our need for connection. And this kind of also links into conversation. I think it's really important for us to be having conversations with other people. If we are left to our own devices with only the words in our mind interacting with the other words in our mind, we'd probably all go crazy. Like, we are social creatures. You know, we might have some like isolating tendencies, but at the end of the day, there is like some degree of social interaction that we all need. And, you know, that can come from a lot of different things. You know, it can come from weekly dinners with family. It can come from a monthly FaceTime with your friend who lives a state away or something like that. I think it's about just honoring the connections and relationships that you have in your life, and, you know, make sure, I don't know, whenever you're putting effort into those types of relationships and making sure that you have those types of connections happening in your life, I think that is a part of meeting like your mental like basic needs for feeling supported within your like emotional well-being or whatever. Am I just saying a bunch of words? Maybe. The next few needs are ones that have actually come to me recently. For the most part, the basic needs of our like mental health and physical health have been kind of obvious to me, and I have like been working from this like outline formatted in my brain for years now, and it's been like recently, like less than the past like 6 months, where I've like tacked on these like last few different points and realized that they are basic needs I need to meet for my mental well-being. And the first one is kind of just a human thing, and that is validation. Like, we do crave validation to a certain degree, but I think it's really important for us to remember that we have to have a solid foundation of internal validation, of just knowing that we are enough just as we are, and as long as we're continuing to try to be better, you know, we are just worthy of existing. And even if we're not like actively working on it, like, you know what I'm trying to say, like, if you're trying to be a good person, then that's enough sometimes, you know what I mean? And just letting like your own, just being your own source of confidence and validation, and letting that be your foundation, and letting like external validation from other people, you know, compliments from other people, opinions of other people, letting that be like the sprinkle, the cherry on top, or whatever, I think leads to, I don't know, just increased happiness. It's really unfair to rely on other people to be happy, because other people can't actually make you happy. They can make you laugh, they can make you smile, you can share wonderful memories with people, but it is the series of choices that you make yourself within your own life that determines whether or not that you're going to be feeling happy. And a lot of the times there are life circumstances that are out of your control that affect that, but at the end of the day, you know, you just can't rely on anyone else but yourself to have a fulfilling life. You know, you have to let other people just be extra bonus, cool parts of it, if that makes sense. And personally, that's something I used to be really good at. Like a couple years ago, I was very secure in like my foundation of internal validation, and it was really cool to feel that way, to just feel like, damn, I'm just like the coolest fucking person. And that doesn't mean that I'm cooler than everybody else, because it's not about comparing me to everyone else. I think that I'm the coolest fucking person because I do all the things I think are fucking cool, you know? And what I think is cool is going to be entirely unique to what someone else thinks is cool, and that's okay. That's exactly how it's meant to be. That's what makes me me and you. Like, we are all unique individuals, and there is space for all of us to be really fucking cool together. And I don't know, that's just like the mentality that I need to jump back into, because that is not how I've been feeling lately. I have definitely been being a little bit toxic and have been relying on my partner for lots of reassurance and validation, and it's a little unfair of me to be doing those things. Sorry, Riley. I love you. Thanks for sticking it out with me as I'm working all this out. He's been amazing for the most part. And yeah, I don't know. I need to work on my confidence. I need to work on focusing on these basic needs again. Like, the reason why this is so important to me is because this is a life lesson that life keeps on freaking teaching me. And once I think I have it down packed, like I'm in the groove of things, life happens and then I'm out of the groove of things. And currently in this season of life, I'm working on getting back into the groove of things and just making sure that all of my needs are met so I can, move on from laying the foundation and start enjoying like the fun design parts of my life that I'm building. You know what I mean? Kind of a wonky construction metaphor, but I think you'll understand. Second to last little topic. I don't know why I'm picking up an accent right now. But anywho, maybe it's because I just think that we as Americans have really boring accents. Like, what? I'm a fucking California Valley girl? Like, man, that's not very cool. That's pretty basic, you know what I mean? But I do love California. I love being a Valley girl. When I really think about it, it is who I am. Grandma's calling me from the Valley. Talk to her later. Love Grandma. But, where were we? Yes. Second to last little topic is reflection. I think that intentionally reflecting, having a moment of introspection, just like really thinking. Like, you need times of rest, but you also need times where you're like really, really thinking hard about who you are, how you're doing in life, who you want to be, how to be that person, all the things, all the freaking existential crises. But I think that just making sure that reflection is a part of your life, whether that is through journaling. I have been kind of doing some reading. I thrifted a book recently on like tarot card readings and how each of like the different cards represents something else. I think that could be a really fun way to like provoke reflection throughout your life regularly. Like, you just have your little stack of cards and you try to do a little reading or something, and it's like, this card reminds me of this thing, and then you start thinking about this thing. Like, do I think that I will be able to tell the future of people by like picking up different cards in front of them? No, not necessarily. But do I think that I can be inspired by a card that has some sort of like connection to some sort of symbolism, or has like art on it that is supposed to represent something? Like, can I let that inspire reflection about myself and my life? Yes, absolutely. And like, that's what I think like all the like witchy woo woo things are really about. At least that's how I want to use them, as like fun tools. You also can just like think of these things on your own. Like, you don't have to be using a tool, but I think that something like that, or something like journaling, or having like a little self-help book that you like check in with, one of those like books that has like a quote a day or something like that, to inspire some sort of reflection. I don't know, I just think that when you're being intentional about anything, really, but especially about like wanting to grow as a person, continually trying to be a better version of yourself, whatever that looks like, from season of life to season of life, it never hurts. I don't really know where I was going with that, but I'm just going to go ahead and move on to the last one, because it is the most recent epiphany that I have had when it comes to like, oh, this is like a basic need of like my life that I am like fully missing right now. Maybe not fully missing, but I have just been neglecting for a really, really long time. And that is purpose, having purpose in your life, ensuring that, um, the things that you have scheduled in your day to day life are purposeful, are moving you towards like what you think your life's purpose is, and working hard towards that purpose. Throughout my life, like as a kid, I have always been very good at working hard. I grew up on a farm, so I think it just kind of comes with the territory of things to a degree. Like, farm work's hard, physical labor is hard, uh, school itself is hard, life can be really, really hard. Um, but I can definitely look back on a lot of different things that I have done where I have worked really hard, and all of the practice I put into it really, really paid off. Like, I used to think that I was just naturally talented at so many different things. I thought I was like naturally talented at playing the clarinet. I thought I was naturally talented at water polo. Like, it was just the one sport that like worked out for me or whatever. But looking back on it, I actually put so much work and effort, so many hours into those activities that I was doing. Like, I was really committed, like to a crazy degree, looking back, like an unhealthy degree. Like, I was weirdly busy for a freaking teenager, but it was cool and it was fun. I don't really regret any of it. I don't regret being tired. What I do regret is maybe not meeting all of my needs. So I was perhaps a cranky, emotional, moody teenager at times that didn't handle everything well, but that's why teenagers are still kids and they're not adults. You know what I mean? But working that hard as a teenager and then going to college just led to like a lot of burnout, and I started really resenting working hard, especially with my last job in like a corporate setting where leadership ended up not being the best towards the end, and there were a lot of manager type people who would like dangle the carrot in front of you, like, oh, if you just work hard enough, you're gonna get X, Y, and Z, everything that you're asking for essentially, and then it just wouldn't come. It's just like continuously dangled in front of you. You're just the horse pulling the carriage, and they're just putting more shit in the carriage. Anywho, that's like turning into a rant for another day, but all to say, like, to spend so much time and so much energy working so hard towards someone else's dream, just like, I don't know. I thought that job working with plants every day would be what like cured my burnout from my education and all of my habits throughout that. But in fact, it was just like the freaking cherry on top of things, because like my energy wasn't really being appreciated in that environment, and that did teach me an important lesson of just like knowing my worth within a space. Like, it's okay to like leave projects, you know what I mean, if it's what's best for you. But anywho, since that experience, I have really just been like trying to like catch my breath and figure out what my next steps in life are. And all of a sudden I was just kind of lacking the element of purpose and hard work towards a purpose. Like, I was doing hard work as a nanny. That's like usually my go-to in between job whenever I'm trying to figure things out, usually because kids are really, really uplifting at times. Watching kids grow can be really magical. However, not all experiences nannying are fun. Some are just a lot of hard work. And I was just like lacking that element of purpose within that. And I'm no longer nannying. So it's kind of clicked with me that it's like, that's what I was missing. Like, now that I have been devoting a lot more of my time towards my creative passions and creative projects that are like actually coming to fruition to a point where I could like share them with the world, you know, whether they're good or not. Like, I'm not sharing things from my life, my projects, my art with the world, because I think I'm amazing and my creations are amazing. I'm sharing them with the world because I want the world to be on the journey with me from the beginning. Like, I want the world to see how much I've grown over time as I continue to practice, taking pictures, editing pictures, painting, creating in whatever shape or form, podcasting, all these projects I'm working on are all going to take on lives of their own, and I'm super excited for it. And now that I'm actually like I've had these ideas, but now that I'm actually putting in the hard work towards these purposes, I'm like, holy shit, my life feels so much more fulfilled. Like, that really happened so fast. Like, it was so black and white. Like, life's lessons can really be so obvious sometimes. I don't know. All to say that I think that having purpose and working towards that purpose, action has to be accompanied with it for the need to be met. It's a two-parter to be fully completed, but I think that is essential for like your mental, spiritual health is what I would say. Maybe not like emotional, whatever, maybe, I don't know. Like I said, they all affect each other, but I think that my spirit is so much happier now that I'm working on creative projects, and I think that my mind is just feeling so much more fulfilled and engaged now that I have been putting in hard work towards things I actually care about. Like, who would have thunk that that would actually make a difference in how you feel in your life? Crazy, huh? But anywho, that's all the yip yapping I have for you today. It has been a hoot and a half. Like I said earlier, these are things that I just feel so strongly about. Like, I am so passionate about working towards meeting these basic needs in my life, because I truly believe that it will only set me up for success when it comes to like meeting my goals in life and making my dreams come true and handling all the hard, out of control things that life will throw your way at one point or another. Like, when it rains it pours, that's for sure. And it's easier to handle those times whenever you have taken care of yourself. And at the end of the day, it's important to realize that we are the only ones that can take care of ourselves, and we have to in order to like take care of our people, like the people in our tribe, everyone who we have a relationship with. If you have a partner, if you have freaking dogs, I don't know, that's my situation. Many people have even bigger tribes with like freaking kids and stuff. That's crazy. And I'm sure it's just that much harder to meet your basic needs whenever you have so much more on your plate. But I know when I'm meeting my basic needs, I am a better partner to my person, and like, that's who I want to be. I know that I can be a better friend whenever I'm meeting my basic needs, because I have the energy to like be social with people and the desire to like conversate. Like, I don't know, everyone has their own order and their own way of meeting all of these different needs, and I think just thinking about it and being intentional and just feeling things out and finding what works for you and what doesn't, and just recognizing that as you change, those things might change, and the way you get your needs met might need to change in some way, shape, or form, and that's okay, even if it's hard and challenging, because change can be tough sometimes or whatever. We have to do it because it's worth it to feel good. It's worth it to feel the way you do when your needs are met. Like, fuck, if you like, just picture yourself just getting the best night's sleep, just eating something absolutely delicious, feeling fully hydrated, like experiencing a like genuine connection with another human in a beautiful place. Like, isn't that what life is all about? Feeling like that, having moments like that. I don't know, that's the kind of life I want to live, at least. To each their own, but whatever that is for you, picture it, work towards it, be it, do it, whatever. And when it gets hard, and when you inevitably fall off the wagon or lose track of these good habits, come back to them. Like, that's actually, I think, the most important part of all of this, is recognizing that this is what you need, and when you get to the point where you forget, just come back to it. Come back to meeting your basic needs. That is your foundation. When there is a crack somewhere else in the building, check in with your foundation. Come back to it. Make sure all those needs are met. Recognize if something's got to change. We have to be flexible. Life's flexible. Life is unique, ever changing. So we need to be adaptable to survive or whatever. Anywho, I'm rambling again. I'm supposed to be ending the podcast, but this is just one of those things that I could just talk about forever and ever. This is one of those topics that made me want to start a podcast because I love it. Thank you so much for tuning in. Your support is greatly appreciated. I swear, I love you. I can't believe you're actually here listening to me, and I just hope that you find my words inspiring or entertaining or something of the sort, and yeah, please follow or subscribe. If you want to find me elsewhere, check out the show notes, and that'll provide you with a map. And until next time, bye babes.